Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, talk number 58, July 4th, 1935. This is a talk based on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, where the devotees asked Sri Bhagavan some questions related to the Bhagavad Gita. Mr. Ranganathan, ICS, asked Sri Bhagavan, in Srimad Bhagavad Gita there is a passage, one's own dharma is the best, an alien dharma is full of risks. What is the significance of one's own dharma? Maharshi replied, it is usually interpreted to mean the duties of the orders and of the different castes. The physical environment must also be taken into consideration. Devotee, if Varnashrama Dharma be meant, such Dharma prevails only in India. On the other hand, Gita should be universally applicable. Maharshi replied, there is Varnashrama Dharma in some form or the other in every land. The significance is that one should hold on to the single Atman and not swerve therefrom. That is the whole gist of it. Swa means one's own, that is of the self, of the Atman. Para means the others, that is of the non-self or of the Anatma. Atma Dharma is inherence in the self. There will be no distraction and no fear. Troubles arise only when there is a second to oneself. If the Atma be realized to be only unitary, there is no second, and therefore there is no cause for fear. The man, as he is now, confounds the Anatma, non-self dharma, with Atma Dharma and suffers. Let him know the self and abide in it. There is an end of fear, and there are no doubts. Even if interpreted as Varnashrama Dharma, the significance is only this much. Such dharma bears fruit only when done selflessly. That is, one must realize that he is not the doer, but he is only a tool of some higher power. Let the higher power do what is inevitable and let them act according to its dictates. The actions are not mine. Therefore, the result of the actions cannot be mine. If one thinks and acts so, where is the trouble? Be it Varnashrama Dharma or Laukika Dharma, that is, worldly activities, it is immaterial. Finally, it amounts to this. Swa means Atmanaha, of the self, Para, Anatmanaha, of the non-self. So, doubts are natural. The orthodox interpretation cannot be reconciled with the life of a modern man obliged to work for his livelihood in different capacities. A man from Pondicherry interposed, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja. This is a verse from Bhagavad Gita, which means, leaving all duties, surrender to me only. Sri Bhagavan, Sarva is only Anatmanaha, of the non-self. The emphasis is on Ekam. To the man who has strong hold of the Eka, or one, where are the dharmas? It means, be sunk in the self. Devotee asked, the Gita was taught for action. Maharshi, what does the Gita say? Arjuna refused to fight. Krishna said, as long as you refuse to fight, you have the sense of doership. Who are you to refrain or to act? Give up the notion of doership. Until that sense disappears, you are bound to act. You are being manipulated by a higher power. You are admitting it by your own refusal to submit to it. Instead, recognize the power and submit as a tool. If you refuse, you will be forcibly drawn into it. Instead of being an unwilling worker, be a willing one. Rather, be fixed in the self and act according to nature without the thought of doership. Then, the results of action will not affect you. that is the manliness and heroism. Thus, inherence in the self is the sum and substance of the Gita teaching. Finally, the Master himself added, if a man be established in the self, these doubts would not arise. They arise only until he is established there. The devotee asked, then of what use is such reply to the enquirer? Maharshi, the words still have force and will surely operate in due course. Talk number 59. A Maulvi asked, how does sleep overtake one? Maharshi replied, if the enquirer knows who is awake in the wakeful condition, he will also know how sleep comes on. The enquirer or the enquiry arises only to the waking man and not to the sleeper. It must be easier to know the waking self rather than the sleeping self. Devotee, I know how I awoke, but I do not know how sleep comes on. I am aware of my wakeful state. For instance, if anyone takes away my stick, I prevent this doing so, whereas I cannot do so in sleep or in dream. The proof of wakefulness is evident, but what is the proof of sleep? Maharshi replied, your ignorance is the evidence of sleep. Your awareness is that of wakefulness. The devotee then replied, my wakefulness is known by the opening of my eye, but how does sleep overtake me? Maharshi, in the same way as sleep overtakes you, wakefulness also overtakes you. The devotee asked, but I do not perceive how sleep comes on in the same way as I know my wakefulness. Maharshi, never mind. Devotee, please describe what is sleep without illustrations. Sleep by itself should be known. I want a real picture of sleep. Maharshi, such picture is sleep itself. Devotee, is it better to reach salvation being married or being a hermit? Maharshi, whatever you think better. Devotee, Vishwamitra had no fall when in the married state, whereas he had a fall in his hermit life. Does it apply to others also? Maharshi, Vishwamitra was as pure in the hermit life as he was in the married. There was no difference. He was as contaminated when married as when he was a hermit. Devotee, was he a rishi? Maharshi, when contaminated, he was not a rishi. Can he become a rishi even afterwards? Replied devotee. Then the master said, yes, by proper bhakti, he could become a good rishi. Repentance and prayer will set him right. The devotee then asked, with all your penance for so many years, what have you got? Maharshi, I have got what needed to be got. I see what need be seen. Maharshi, can all see the same? Maharshi replied, I see only just what all do. It is eminent in all. Devotee, is this the way for seeing it? Maharshi replied, method may be anything. From whatever directions the pilgrims may foregather, they must enter the Kaaba only by one route or passage, or all gather only to enter the Kaaba. Devotee, please tell me two Upadeshas on the way to salvation as known by you. Maharshi replied, what Upadesha do I know? Everything is Upadesha. Worship of God is the only Upadesha. End of talk 59.